everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sophie. I am 28 and a mum of 1 to 4-month-old Finn. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I do lots of mummy videos and routine videos and house tours and all sorts of different things. Today I wanted to talk about sleep. So chances are, if you are a new mum, you will have talked about sleep quite a lot, and if you are coming across this video, it's because you are pretty knackered, as we all are at some point when we have a new baby. Sleep is the topic that kind of overrides everything when you're a new mum. It becomes the thing that you talk about instead of the weather, and we have been pretty lucky with Finn, to be honest. He has slept in pretty big chunks since about 4 days old, which I know is pretty unheard of. So I wanted to share the tips that we found really useful to getting him to sleep through, because I do think it's made a massive difference to our experience as first-time parents and being able to enjoy him, really, because we're not as tired as maybe the average person. What I would like to say as a bit of a disclaimer is that I'm not an expert, and that I do think we've been really lucky with Finn. He's not had colic, he's not had reflux, he's not had any of those things. So it might just be pure luck, and it probably is. I'm not attributing this to any sort of parenting skill whatsoever. So just to let you know how it's been with Finn so far. On day 1, we were in the hospital and I woke him up every 4 hours for a feed. I think I'd had quite a lot of drugs during labour and he was probably still pretty tired. So day 1 was fine. Day 2, we came home and we swaddled him up in our cellular blankets and we put him in the Chico next to me, next to our bed. I'll insert a little picture here because he looked like a tiny little dog. He's just having a little bit of fun. And we closed the curtains and we put our pyjamas on and we went to bed like we were going to go to sleep. And he screamed all night, like we did 2-hour shifts where I'd stay awake with him and feed him for 2 hours, Paul would stay awake with him and feed him for 2 hours. We are bottle feeding, which I know is an important factor when it comes to sleep, because when you're bottle feeding, you know they're getting a certain amount, and when you're breastfeeding, you don't, and therefore they can't sleep for as long and all of that sort of stuff. So for reasons that I've explained in other videos, we had to bottle feed, so just to get that out there as well. So that was pretty crazy. We were pretty tired because I've been in labour for like 3 days anyway. So on day 3, Paul's mum actually came round and stayed awake with the baby all night, and we went to bed, which I would highly recommend. If you've got someone who wants to do that for you and wants to stare at a newborn baby and cuddle them all night, get that done. And we actually still do that now. On a Friday we go to mum's and she has the cot in her room and we get a full night's sleep. So if you have the ability to do that at your parents' house or grandparents or whoever, do it, because it really makes a difference, especially if one of you's working during the week. Sorry, someone just wanted a little bit of attention, so he's going to be in the video now. Hey! So day 4 came and we put him in the next to me again, swaddled him up, and he started to scream, and I thought, we're not doing this again for a 4th night. Hey! So I had bought, or my mum had bought for us, this Sleepyhead Deluxe, which I will link the review to down below, because I've done a full review on them, so I won't talk about it again. But we've been pretty put off using it by the midwife, who just was really wary of it, and she said I wouldn't use it as a sleep aid, I'd only use it during the day under supervision. We don't know enough about them. But I'd done quite a lot of research on the Sleepyhead and I felt pretty comfortable that it was safe to use as a nighttime sleep aid. So what we did was we put the Sleepyhead on top of the covers in between us in the bed, moved all the pillows aside, and he slept in the middle of us for the first couple of nights. And he slept from about 9 o'clock at night to about midnight, and then we'd give him a feed, and then from midnight till like 4 we'd give him another feed and he'd go back to sleep until about 7. So that was a massive difference to us. And it really worked well. It also put me at ease because I could touch him all night, I could feel that he was safe. You do a lot of checking the breathing in the early days, I still do it now. So yeah, it really worked for us. After a couple of days we felt comfortable and we kind of wanted to be able to touch each other again and hug each other and spoon and stuff in bed. So we put him in the Chico next to me, but we put the Sleepyhead inside the next to me, because he was still so little, and we're still doing that now, to be honest, at 4 months. So he's right by my side, I can hear him, feel him, touch him, I know he's safe all night, and it's just worked really well for us. So for the first 8 weeks, I would say, what we were doing was we would give him his last bottle about 8 o'clock. The thing with the first 4 weeks is that they are so sleepy. Like, they will sleep all day. Every day I would think to myself, he's not going to sleep tonight. How can he? He's going to sleep for 20 hours today. He's just woken up for feeds. And I would ring my mum and it's his, and she just said it's normal. They need that amount of sleep. They've been born, they're growing, you know, they're really tired and they need that amount of sleep. So don't be too afraid if your newborn is sleeping all of the time and it appears they have narcolepsy. They probably just need to sleep. So we would just give him his last bottle about 8, when he would naturally sort of want it, and then he'd fall asleep either on me or on Paul, or on his little play mat, or in the Sleepyhead downstairs, and we would just carry him up to bed at 10 when we went to bed. So we were doing that for the first couple of weeks, and then after a while Mum said, look, you're going to have to establish some sort of routine with him, because otherwise he's going to expect to just always fall asleep with you. So after about 6 weeks, I'd say we started the bath, bottle, story, bedtime routine. We started doing that and he really liked it and it really seemed to work. We did a bit of baby massage after the bath, but then he started to get eczema, and I went to the doctors and they said I should only be bathing him a couple of times a week, so we dropped the bath aspect, but we still follow the sort of like 6 o'clock, we take him upstairs, we change him into his sleep suit, we give him his final bottle upstairs, usually on the bed, we read him a story, and then we put him down in the Sleepyhead and then inside the next to me, awake, and he usually then drifts straight off to sleep without crying, to be honest. We usually put him in a sleeping bag. I've got 2 from the White Company, a winter tog one and a summer tog one. We're using the summer tog at the moment, although it's been so hot recently, I've literally just laid the bottom of the sleeping bag underneath him and then tucked the top under the Sleepyhead so it can't go over his face if he wiggles about, and then let him go to sleep with just a onesie on until it gets a bit cooler in the night, and then I just popper it up and make sure that he's covered up. So yeah, that works really well for us. There has been one exception where he was just really overtired, and I think it was like half an hour later than his usual routine, and he cried for about 5 minutes. So what we did was we let him cry, and we watched him really closely on the baby monitor. If his dummy fell out, we'd go and put his dummy back in and put our hands on his chest just to let him know we were there, and then we'd literally sit outside the door. But he cried for 5-10 minutes max and then went to sleep, and that's only had to happen once. So I wouldn't say we'd done the crying out method at all. 9 out of 10 times he's either nearly asleep by the time we put him in bed, or he's awake and he just settles himself. We haven't used any white noise. We bought an Ollie the owl, but we haven't seemed to want to use it, and to be honest, I didn't really want him to rely on white noise to go to sleep, because that then again, if it goes away, then they wake up, or if it turns off they wake up. So we haven't had to use anything like that, but like I said, we've been lucky, we've not had colic or anything like that. So he will then sleep from about 7 o'clock till between 4 and 6 in the morning. This morning it was 5:30. We woke up, gave him a bottle, we feed him in bed. I change him if we need to, although 90% of the time he's actually dry at that point and he doesn't really wear his nappy overnight. And then we will put him back in our bed, obviously move the covers and the pillows away and take his sleeping bag off for the next hour and a half until about 7:30 when we all get up. This isn't ideal, it's not what I'd like to do, but he just won't go back to sleep in his Sleepyhead at that point. He's not having any of it. And I think, to be honest, it's pretty good going if we get that amount of chunk of sleep. So I'm not really complaining, and it's not something that he's going to do forever. At about 6 months, we'll put him in his own room, and I'm hoping to break that out of him. And obviously, at that point, we'll be feeding him real food, which we've started to do with baby porridge this week. So he might not wake up in the night for a feed because he won't be as hungry. During the day, he will sleep in his bouncer, or he'll sleep on his playmat. He won't sleep in the Sleepyhead during the day. I haven't decided yet whether we're going to buy the Sleepyhead Grand, which is the next one. It's very expensive, but to be honest, the Sleepyhead Deluxe has been an absolute lifesaver to us. It just means we can take it to Mum's when we go and stay there. We went on holidays to the lakes last week and we took it with us, and he slept absolutely fine because according to him, it's exactly the same environment. He doesn't know any different. So the things that I do to ensure that he sort of stays in that routine are making sure that during the day he has enough bottles. So he'll have between 5 and 6 bottles a day. In the very beginning, I was making sure that I was feeding him every 2 to 3 hours during the day, and that really worked well for us. Now it probably is every 3 hours, but he definitely has between 5 and 6 bottles in a day. I make sure that I keep to that schedule and I don't miss bottles, because I find that if I miss bottles, even if he's asleep or he just isn't particularly hungry, that has a knock-on effect to the night time because he's not eating enough during the day. Keeping to that routine is absolutely essential. As bad as it sounds, it's kind of selfish of us to change it in any way. So if we were at somebody's house, we were at a restaurant and we missed that 6:30 deadline for bedtime, we really feel it, because he will start to scream, he's overtired, it's hard to get him to sleep, we have to nurse him to sleep instead of being able to put him to bed awake. So it's really quite important that you stick to that. Make sure that you are at home, or at least in a familiar environment, at that 6:00, 6:30 bedtime. The other thing that I make sure that I do are keep his naps pretty regular, although I do sort of let him do what he needs to do. So he will wake up at 7:30, and then he'll have a nap for about half an hour at 9:00, which again seems insane because he's been asleep for 12 hours. And then he'll have a large nap from about 12, half 12, probably about an hour, and then sometimes a nap in the afternoon, but not very often, to be honest, because he's getting such a large chunk of sleep at night. We do have the witching hour scenario where at about 5:00 he can sometimes get really grumpy and irate and crying for no reason, especially when he was younger. And you've just got to kind of ride through it and take it in turns and tap in and tap out. We allow ourselves one tap out a week, so Paul can just say to me, I'm tapping out, I'm going for a walk, or I'm going to the gym, and similarly I can do that once a week as well. So if you do have a partner that you can rely on to do that, that's a great way to sort of keep your sanity alive. So yeah, comment down below if there's any questions that you'd like to know about our specific routine. Like I said, I'm not an expert, and if you are struggling with sleep and your baby, I feel for you. We all feel the same sometimes. We definitely need coffee to help us get through the day. Just carry on and it will get better. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye.